Hello everybody, welcome back as ever to various Oddities Showcase, and continuing on with last time, we in fact have quite a bit more news about the pacts. So, we have added a whole bunch more ways to start pacts. Previously we just had the Deviled Egg and the Flask of Ozone. We now have access to the Faustian Contract, the Red String of Fate, the Ritualistic Dagger, the Flask of Liquid Ozone, the Binding Potion, the Goblet of Blood, the Deviled Egg, the Still Beating Heart, which is animated, and the Mage Apple. All of these, and also some things that just don't give you that kind of item, are going to be available, so you can have a very creative kind of means of building the entryway to a given pact. The next thing after that is that we have significantly overhauled the actual pact view itself. So if I just begin this, and I look in here, we can see we have a bunch of information going on. So on the left and right of our current pact, we can see other pacts that will be available, and of course you will still only be able to continue one at a time. If you go to a different one from what you're already at, you will lose a large number of the rewards that you get from a given pact. But we have the name visible here, that is configurable. We have the text here, that is also configurable. We have the icons and the rewards and the different criteria. All of this is now heavily configurable because we have tied this quite heavily to JSON data. And to show that off, I'm going to need to step out of the game a quick moment. So here we have the current configured JSON file for the Witch, and as we can see there is a display which tells us the name as well as defines a color and various other effects we should wish. If you want to obfuscate, that option is available to you. You can have a description, and you can define what endgame, if any, a given pact has. In this case, for the Witch one, we have the Changeling endgame. For the Kieran, of course, we have the Lightling. And there's going to be at least 5, probably more different endgames by the time of actual release, so look forward to that. Every single tier is then arranged in an array object like so. That's the square brackets as opposed to the curly brackets. They all have an ID identifying what tier they are and allowing us to distinguish them between different pacts. We have an icon item. Currently, this only supports Minecraft items. I'm tinkering to try and get it to work with modded items for a bit more color, but for the moment it is just Minecraft ones. Then you have your rewards. A tier can in fact have as many or as few rewards as you like. You can in fact have entire tiers that have no rewards whatsoever. And we have criteria, of which there must be at least one. So every tier has at least one. In this case, it is just wait 10 seconds using the tick trigger. And we have also down here the kill trigger, and there's all manner of other triggers, which is the next thing that I have to show for you. So, let's start with the different rewards, because that's the major thing that you're going to be interested in when you're trying to play around with a specific pact. So we have the majority of things that are available from vanilla advancements. We have experience, we have loot tables, we have recipes, we have activations of functions. Modded ones that we're adding from the simple to the complex, we have items. So instead of just using loot tables, which can give you a random assortment of items, we can actually specify specific items and groups of items. We also have commands, so instead of using an entire function, which is a configurable thing that you had to do in vanilla anyways, we can just trigger a specific command from the position of the player that achieves that reward. Then we can change your reputation with a given faction, allowing you to, for instance, trigger an endgame and then just alter how that goes. For instance, if you use the Changeling endgame, you would ordinarily be on high reputation with the Changelings, but you could use a reward like this on your final tier to make someone be incredibly hostile with the Changelings. So, for instance, they initialize a hive inside of your base, and then proceed to kick you out of it. That is something that you can do. You could also use this as a kind of quest line to get into good terms with a goblin encampment, that kind of thing, if you should so wish to configure your pacts in that way. Castle level is fairly straightforward. You can set or adjust your castle level, and it can go down, just by the by. A lot of these can in fact be in reverse. So you can use that to gain access to more powerful spells or get better of existing spells, that kind of thing. And that brings me to the spell list reward. This allows you to add or remove spells to the player's specific spell list. Now, currently, that is bound to a specific spell list item, but later on, not very long in fact, that's going to become part of the player data so that the item just accesses your specific player data spell list, and that means that we can then control it much more easily using commands and such. And now onto the potential triggers. So, not everything from advancements is something that I can reasonably replicate. Changes to your inventory, for instance, are relatively difficult to do because I have to check every single slot in the player's fairly expensive inventory, keep a map of what it was originally, and then check it against the whole new thing every game tick. And that's heavy, to say the least, and is relatively, unreasonable to keep track of. But there are a fair few that we can, in fact, measure. So we can check when you breed animals, we can check when you brew potions, when you have changed what dimension you're in, including from and to. We can check when you consume and break an item, we can check never. These are things that are, it might seem strange and contradictory to have a criteria that you can never trigger. In this case, it's generally a precursor of, oh, you have to have a command trigger to actually advance in your pact in that case. There is killing an entity or being killed by an entity. There is the location, so you can be in a specific position, in a specific area around a given position, in a biome, in a structure, in a whole ton of different properties with that, in fact. That's a lot more diverse than it might look at. Never travel is where you entered, where you exited, and how far is between the 2 points. So if you wanted to tie it to a specific Never portal, for instance, you can do that, or just a specific distance traveled through the Never. Placing blocks, fairly straightforward. Then we also have sleeping in a bed, we also have taming animals, we have ticks, so that is generally a timer, so you can just have a specific pact increment over time, or you can just make sure that pact upgrades and level ups and such happen a specific time apart, no matter how quickly you can actually, get through all of the criteria. And hopefully we'll be adding a few more specific to various oddities, such as casting certain levels or specific spells, that kind of thing. But as you can see, the pact system is getting very, very powerful, and it can still be very much likened to the advancement system. In advancements in Minecraft, you can essentially create a quest with branches off, except that you can quite easily complete the entire quest before you start the first step, and as soon as you get the first step, the whole thing unlocks. And that's a little bit unintentional. That is because all criteria of every advancement are checked simultaneously, and consequently, you might not get the rewards for a given advancement at a given time, but you can actually complete it. Pacts don't do that. They only check for the criteria of the current level, and consequently that means you can actually mandate that a particular series of actions and events happen in a specific order. But that is what we have currently for pacts. Now, I'm a little dry on ideas for endgames, so if any of you in the comments section happen to have any ideas for the grand designs of various eldritch beings that might be willing to offer you a little stipend of power, do let me know what you think their schemes might yield. And with that, hope you've all enjoyed, and I'll catch you all as ever next time. This video made possible by my wonderful supporters on Patreon. Their efforts ensure that I'm able to continue making entertaining content, and that a steady flow of tea continues to feed directly into my ancient and twisted heart. To help me and get some fun rewards for joining my seedy cabal of forgetfuls, head over to patreon.com/lying.